Welcome back, guys. It is our third episode of our podcast, and we released our first episode today. We're 2 weeks ahead, and I think we're happy. Is that the consensus? I don't know. I think we're happy.
I
Yeah,
haven't. I guess we
I'm
could say that, but
yeah,
yeah.
I'm just happy that one of my best friends said that it's a really good podcast, and so that means a lot to me.
Yes. We know we're starting from zero, and there's only the only way from here is up.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We were just talking about earlier what our dreams for this podcast is, and we all kind of have different dreams, but at the end of the day, just like we said in the first episode, it's going to be therapy for us, but also a hobby that we're going to really enjoy, hopefully. Uh,
Mhm.
and it helps
Yeah.
us research more.
And I guess
Exactly. And I just like to talk. So I like to share my
yeah,
opinions and like to talk. So
and I feel like we love to spend time together, so it's a bonus to see each other one more time in the week.
It
yeah.
forces us to
I didn't
watch.
want to admit it, but it's true. I didn't
Yeah.
want to
Yeah.
admit it, but
You
I
didn't
do like
want
to
to
hang
admit
out
that
with
you
you
like
guys.
us?
It's
Well, I
good
didn't
enough
want
to
to, well,
admit
not like I
that
didn't want to admit that I
that's
like you
fine.
guys that much. I'm just
It forces us to communicate. At least for me,
kidding.
I'm horrible with communicating with people.
We
Um,
know.
He really is.
I love a lot of people, and I just wish I had the time to communicate with everyone, but I don't. If I haven't talked to you, sorry, I'm still here.
Um, that's the reason we're good friends because I'm a low maintenance friend. You can not talk to
Yeah,
me for several
yeah,
months and it will still be
Well,
best friends when we catch
you,
up. That's
yeah.
me.
You are a low maintenance, friend.
aren't
I'm
we?
low maintenance too,
You're a low
so
maintenance friend too. You're a low
that
maintenance
that
friend.
helps a lot. Today's topic is Christmas. It is our last Christmas related episode that we're gonna have. We've decided that we're still gonna post next week, which will be Christmas, but we'll just have different topics from there. So if you're with your family, if you are preparing breakfast or lunch, hopefully you can still listen or watch us on YouTube. So I know a lot of you guys watched us on YouTube. Either way, I think now we are definitely on Spotify and other places like Amazon Music. If you find us, save us, follow us there in any place it is, and that way you don't miss an episode. Okay, today's topic specifically is going to be on pagan traditions that transform or got adapted into Christmas. Um, yeah, I guess we'll say it like that. Because some were adopted into Christmas, whereas some we kind of changed the meaning to it to our own purpose. And there's several traditions, but I'm going to focus on about five or six of these and just kind of talk about them. But before we start this topic, I did give you a prep question, which I don't know if you guys prepped or not,
No.
but
What?
This is news to me.
I was gonna say, when did you ask for that? I'm trying to
Oh,
this is when you have one organized person
remember.
and two
No.
people.
We're just
wow.
busy.
Wow.
We're just
Okay.
busy. That's it.
I have several jobs actually, so
Me too.
I have several jobs too. Dad, husband,
Oh.
94 kids to teach math. And in this society, just teaching math should be, no, six-digit paying salary, but it's not. But
Yeah.
whatever.
Like I had to make dinner and wash dishes and then watch HBO Max, I was super busy.
Oh man, gosh.
For one.
So, kind of getting off Christmas. So don't think of Christmas. Think of other
Okay.
traditions that are Christian or holidays that are Christian, either or. What when you think of paganism that we adopted, what do you guys think of what we adopted from other cultures or religions even?
Oh.
You guys
Hmm.
think of anything? Anything comes to mind?
Well, what I've heard throughout the years,
Uh-huh.
I've heard all kinds of things about what we've adopted. My knowledge on the subject, I would not say is very great, but I've heard things that we adopt. Even the day of Christmas itself, I was
Mhm.
always told that's not the day Jesus was actually born. I
Mhm.
was
Hmm.
I was been told that for a long time. You
Yeah.
know, that's something that I've always thought about, and I'm like, okay, Jesus wasn't born on December 25th, but that's just the
Yeah.
day we choose to celebrate it.
Yeah.
But I was heard it started from if I know correctly, it was a Roman holiday, correct? It's the winter
We'll
when
talk about that. Yeah, we'll talk
yeah,
about
we're gonna
that.
get into that. Okay.
Uh, Other holidays
Sim
maybe other than Christmas.
yeah, similarly, I believe, and I'm very foggy in on this topic, but I believe that Easter is somewhat related to that. I believe that there was a king back in the day or some sort of ruler that decided Easter was going to be on the day that it is because there was a celebration for a different god or like the god of fertility or something. I can't remember. And so he wanted to replace that or kind of cover that up with a Christian holiday. So then he decided that that was going to be the day that we celebrated Jesus's resurrection, I think.
So Easter, and I'm gonna kind of slide into there. Easter, yes and no. There was already pagan celebrations, but Easter does follow, at least the American Easter, does follow the Jewish calendar, which is
Mhm.
why it
So,
changes every year.
and
Mhm.
it's a lunar calendar, of course, a lunar calendar.
Yes.
Um,
So there is a little bit of both there. Some traditions, especially like the bunny and all that, can be connected to paganism. I think, and you guys are forgetting a big one, and I'm going to mention it again in the podcast, um, because I think it's one that has been recently being taken back into the church because it originally started in the church, and that is the multiple days of Halloween or
Mhm.
All Hallows Eve, which we'll eventually talk about that in more detail. But that's another holiday that some church people celebrate with fall festivals and other events in the church. They changed the name to it. But they're still
yeah.
adopting traditions like dressing up and all that kind of stuff
Mhm.
that can be seen pagan. So, okay. Well, I mean, there's a lot of stuff the church adopts. Um, Personally, coming from more a traditional background, I I saw a lot of contemporary stuff as that's paganism. For example, the fact that the rhythms and the themes of music that we use now in the church originally are made outside of the church. So I'm talking about pop music and all that, and then we adopt it from the outside world. To me, it's like, why, right? When centuries ago the music would be created in the church, and the people outside of the church would mimic our genres, right? So we're not the pioneers anymore of a lot of the stuff that we do. I mean, talk about podcasting. um Christians weren't the first ones that podcast, but we're adopting it and hopefully putting a change to it and giving it a more Christian side to it. So I think a lot of things that we now have in the church, even though a lot of people will go against it, against what I'm saying, a lot of things that we do in church, they have a pagan side to it, right?
Yes.
So, to an extent, we have to be grateful in the sense of we are using the different tools and elements that we can to outreach to more people. Because at the end of the day,
Mhm.
it's really not. At the end of the day, if you use it for the better and for outreach and maybe even just like now, just having fun with it in a Christian side to it, it's still a better thing than just keeping it in a negative way. So, any
I
thoughts
think
on
the
that?
word you were looking for is
Mm.
environment.
Environment, thank you.
A
Thank
positive
you. Yeah.
environment,
In a Christian
adopting.
environment.
Christian environment, yes.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on all that? I know I just said a bunch of nonsense, but um, any
Well, yeah,
thoughts?
I think there can be a lot of positives to adopt for the church to adopt, some of the, things we see in culture. I think there can be positive sides to that. Maybe there's, negatives. I haven't really thought about it a whole lot, to be honest. You mentioned how there's a lot of traditions that we have that are kind of seated or rooted in, what we might call pagan traditions.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think back to my own life. I grew up in a very traditional, church oriented household, which we kind of all have that in common, to some extent. I remember, I was not allowed to go trick or treating. I've actually never have dressed up for Halloween, so I was never allowed to do that. Even
yeah,
though sometimes the events did have, like, they had like fall festivals or like those trunk or treats. My mom would tell me, like, she would be like, we're not gonna be participate in, the
yeah,
Halloween at all. So I wanted to dress up, but sometimes we would go to the events though, but I really wasn't participating as far as dressing up. So to
yeah.
this day, forgive me if I can't remember, but I don't think I've ever dressed up for Halloween at all to this day.
You
Yeah.
can be our garlic salt. We'll be salt and pepper, and you'll be
So,
our garlic salt.
okay. Okay. See, I missed like I never had that experience. So poor me, huh? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So similar to Wolf, I grew up in that same type of household where we did not celebrate Halloween at all. But to be honest, just the way it was set up to where like at school they would say the day after that Halloween you could go to school and you could bring all your candy and you can eat the candy during PE instead of actually like like having a regular PE. So they did that. And then also they my parents would say, you, since today is Halloween and there's going to be a lot of Halloween activities going on at school, then we're just going to keep you home. And then they would say, and you're not allowed to watch anything Halloween themed or Halloween based. But that was all they were showing on Halloween day. And so we would kind of just sit there and like stare at a blank TV because there was nothing for us to watch, or we'd try to come up with
Yeah.
games and stuff like that, but we would get very bored quickly because
Mm,
we're talking about an entire school day of us, trying to entertain ourselves or not having any, schoolwork or anything else. And so in a way, I felt like I was being punished for just doing the right thing in a way. And so I never understood that as a kid. I never understood
yeah.
why am I having to sit here bored doing nothing while, people are out, getting candy or dressing up and stuff like that, and I'm just here bored at home. And then
Yeah.
similarly to that, like the next day, I would be like, why is everyone, you know, eating all their candy and they have like bags and bags of candy and I don't have any and I'm still at school with them and it felt like a punishment because I didn't have any candy the next day and it was just because of what we would were believing in and
Yeah,
that was that we weren't to follow any satanic rituals or anything that portrayed darkness, I guess you
yeah.
could say.
It was
So,
As a kid, I don't think I ever did. No, that's a lie. As a very, very young kid, we did some trick-or-treating, but most of the dress up, my parents kept it with like family members. Like I had an aunt who would do a party, and my parents were always against like no scary stuff. So like we were
No,
dressed
like
as
demonic stuff, huh?
yeah, we were either sailors or clowns or non-demonic stuff for sure. But I remember clearly that for us it was more on the All Saints Day and remembering those that had passed away. Because in the Catholic tradition, it's a 3-day event. So you have more than just what we
Mhm.
most Christians know.
And when you're
Um,
Mexican, it's even more because you have the Dia de los Muertos
There's the
and all
Mortals,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I feel, and this is a whole different topic that I actually do want to hit, but I feel the uh deprivation, and that's the right word,
Hmm.
keeping people and your kids away completely 100% from it sometimes does the opposite. Because I wasn't completely kept away from it, but like I don't remember me wanting to watch the scary movie. I don't remember me watching Halloween movies or anything like that, where I have Christian friends that every
It's like their favorite
Halloween.
thing to do. Yeah.
What's that? Halloweenville or Halloween Town? What's it
Halloween
called?
Town.
From Disney.
Halloween Town.
Like Christian friends that I have that, oh yeah, we watched it every year, but behind my parents' back because they didn't want us to watch it. And then for me, it's like I never watched those movies. I never watched
Yeah.
witches movies.
And that's like
I
Um,
never did
a
either.
grade Halloween movie, like
yeah,
because
Uh, yeah,
made for children.
yeah.
yeah.
I would watch like action movies with my dad, and once in a while we would watch a scary movie throughout the year, but it wasn't like my dad was like, it's Halloween, we're gonna watch a scary movie. Never had that, but it also wasn't like you can't do that. And I think because I didn't have that like hard hand on me, it didn't like make me want to do it anyways.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I did you get were you allowed to watch Harry Potter? Because I wasn't even allowed to watch that as a
No.
kid.
So
It
I
was my
I
mom.
I was allowed just because I read the book, and
Okay.
my parents were like, "You're reading books, you're testing, that's good."
And for
Uh,
us, like we weren't allowed
you
to
weren't
watch
allowed to
them
watch Harry
either,
Potter.
even though they were part of a curriculum. Like you could AR test on them, and they would give you
Yeah,
a lot of points.
yeah,
My parents were like, absolutely not. Like to them, reading the book was way worse than actually
Watching
watching
them.
the movie because you would be reading the spells or whatever it was. Um, and so going back to that, I guess the deprivation part of it, us as parents, or at least I'll speak for myself, we didn't really want to put our girls in the same situation where it was like, oh no, 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 you're not going to school on Halloween, or oh no, 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 you can't dress up. No, you can't go. Well, we don't even go trick or treating. We go to a trunk or treat and at a church. And so we didn't want to completely deprive them of I guess like of Halloween activities per se, because to us at the end of the day, it is something that was like started in the church, how Irvin said it was on All Hallows Eve. And so we remember that. We don't remember how, or we don't think of it as them participating in satanic rituals, because that's what a lot of people say, and they that's why they say like, no, we're not going to participate in Halloween. And if you don't want to do that, then that's fine, that's your
yeah,
family. But I also think it's wrong for them to say like, oh, you're sinning because you're participating in Halloween, or
yeah,
you're in
Yeah.
darkness, or you're worshiping the devil basically.
yeah.
I think
And
that's
and and
very wrong.
and honestly, like there is a line that we do draw. Like
Hmm.
if one of our daughters came and said, "Hey, I want to be a demon for Halloween,"
Yeah.
we're not going to say, "Oh
Yeah.
yeah, you're
Yeah,
not
let be a
worshiping anything."
demon.
No,
Yeah.
there's obviously lions, and like I said, I don't,
Did you
and
say lions or lines?
lions, sorry,
Did you say
lions,
lions?
bears, and tigers. Oh
There
no,
are
oh
lions, but they're
my.
not in Texas, hopefully. Well, there might be. I don't know.
Yeah.
Some
You know
cougars,
what? I
mountain
just
lions.
noticed I see a lot of phrases for movies that I don't know if they're copyrighted, so oh
Uh,
well. Oh well.
You're like, we'll deal with it
we'll
later.
cross that bridge when we get there.
We'll cross that bridge. Yeah. But anyways, I don't think, and I speak to myself as well, but we've gone to conferences and we've done all this stuff as partners and as spouses. And
I
when we
haven't,
were
just to be clear.
dating, yeah, when we were dating,
I
we
haven't done
were,
any of these things.
yeah, no, not me and Will, me and Amari.
No, I'm not married to Irvin, just to be
Yeah.
clear.
Um,
If you
but
guys didn't figure that out already, I'm not married to
yeah,
him.
yeah. But a resounding I guess tip that we almost always get in these places is that we have to accept that we both come from different teachings,
Mhm.
and we have to take both of our teachings and say, okay, this is the good, this is the bad, this is the I don't know if it's good or bad, and then we're merging. So we're not saying that her parents did it wrong or my parents did it wrong, or right or wrong and wrong, but we're deciding that this particular thing is good for our kids. And I think at the end of the day, every individual, every one of our kids is gonna have their own different walk.
Yes.
And
Yep.
unfortunately, it hurts me because I do think about this often. It hurts me, but because we have so many of them, we have four.
That's a
Um,
lot. Yeah.
they're gonna go different directions, right? And
Mhm.
we're gonna be there to support them and to help them and to hopefully have the grace and mercy that was shown to us, not just by our parents, but also by Jesus Christ.
Mhm.
So
And your
yeah,
daughters are gonna play this part of the podcast when after they've done so in
yeah.
the
Oh
future.
my, they're
Here's
gonna
what you said.
Anyway,
You're gonna have grace and mercy
they're gonna
on
throw it
me.
back in our face.
now that you heard this, Dad, let me tell you.
Let me tell you what I did.
Yeah.
Now that you heard yourself.
Yeah. So ultimately, we want them, we always want to guide them to Jesus. And if for whatever reason, Halloween activities, even though we do like activities at the church, but anyways, if for whatever reason that was pulling them away from God, then we'd probably say, okay, we're not going to do that anymore.
Yeah.
But right now, as parents, and with them being the age that they have a really good relationship with Jesus, even at their small age, where they recognize Jesus as their Lord and Savior. They worship him, and they acknowledge that he's always here with us. So they, with them being so close in the relationship with Jesus, we didn't feel like it was something that we needed to turn away from. We didn't feel like it was something that we were absolutely going to deprive them of. Of course, like how Urban said, we have our rules, we have lines that we draw, and and if they ever ask us, like, Mom and Dad, why aren't we doing that? Or like if they say, why can't I dress up as a demon? Then we'll be like, okay, like because
This is why.
There's
that's
only
obvious.
there are
Then
exceptions. I think there will be
yes,
exceptions to allow them to
then
dress
we
up as a demon.
are we are
Like the
going
everything
to.
skit for skits for church.
Oh yes, I
Would
agree.
you allow that?
Yes, yes.
Skits
No,
for
no,
church?
my daughters are not going to
Skits for
be a
church.
second part to a play.
They're going to be the main character in the
Yeah.
play or
Main
nothing at
character
all.
energy.
Yes.
Main character
No, I'm
energy. Teach
kidding.
them right.
Uh, no, yes, I agree with Wolf. Like, unless it's part of a play where, of course, like we said previously, like they're relaying the message of Christ, they're sharing the gospel, then that's okay. But if they just say that they want to be a demon because their friend is doing it or because they think they're gonna look cute, then we'll be like, okay, that is, you know,
Okay.
wanting to celebrate the darkness, wanting
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
participate in darkness, and that's against our beliefs. That's against what is in the word. So then
Because
that's where we would draw the
Yeah.
line.
that is the only exception to the dressing up. Because I have played demons. I played the devil, but it was
Yeah.
in church.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I
Right.
played the devil a lot, actually. I
Oh
played
my
Jesus
gosh.
too.
Well.
Dang, you
But
played it a
yeah,
lot.
yeah, I even played the devil. They even got me horns one time. I put on some horns and I was like literally the
Yeah.
devil. It was like
Yeah.
a funny looking devil, you know. So I played the
Yeah.
devil when we went to I didn't I play the devil one time in one of our school plays or something. I swear you did.
Probably.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
you played that, and I know for sure you played Jesus one.
I played Jesus a few times.
Yeah. And
So very opposite
I
roles.
remember
Very
actually,
opposite. Yeah.
now that
I'm
we're
usually
talking
the
about
villain or
that,
the bad guy in
now that
shows.
we're talking about that, I actually played a demon one time, and I remember because it was part of the dance ministry, part of like the whole like a special that we were doing for the church's anniversary. And I remember I'm sorry, it was for Easter. I remember the dance director saying, I quote, Amaris would be a really good demon. And I was like, what?
Like, I don't know how to take that.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
How do
I was like, please explain. But she did explain. She was like, well, it's because she was the main part of the Lifehouse Everything skit. And when she did that, she did a really good job. She would like of dramatizing the character. So she was like, she would be really good at dramatizing a
Oh,
demon. And so
man.
I was like, okay, I
You
guess
did do really good as the main girl. I don't remember
yeah.
seeing you as the
Well,
demon.
I was like, okay, I'll take it as a compliment. Thank you. Well,
So we're gonna sidetrack back to the actual topic,
I
which
know this
is
is not a Halloween episode,
no,
is
not a
it?
it's
Halloween
not. It's
episode.
not.
It's a Christmas episode. So let's get back to the spirit of
It's
Christmas.
Jingle
Um,
bells,
I am.
jingle
Halloween was more controversial, but yeah, let's get back to Christmas.
Yes. I might leave the camera for a second. I just realized we left our dogs outside. But we're gonna
bells.
start the topic first, and then I might step out. So the topic is again pagan traditions that we took in. Now we're gonna acknowledge the one that we've already kind of acknowledged, which is Christmas Day. I think Wolf, you
I
mentioned.
said is that Jesus wasn't really born on Christmas
Hmm.
Day,
Yeah,
which
so this day, actually,
that's
this
a
whole season, because the 12 days of Christmas was also a Christian kind of,
Like the Advent thing.
well, that's different. That's
that's different than the
different.
12 days of Christmas, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Wait, what? I thought it was the same thing.
No,
Advent is weeks leading up till
yeah,
Christmas.
week leading up to Christmas.
The
So,
candles, 5 candles, I
yeah.
believe.
For those that weren't raised Catholic or in any more traditional church aspect, we do follow a calendar, and calendar followed by 3 years. They follow scriptures, but you come right around Thanksgiving. You start doing the Christmas season coming up to Christmas, which is Advent, which is what she mentioned. But then there's a 12 days of Christmas that was adopted by the church as well, eventually. But these days is what we call the celebration of winter solstice. So we got to go back all the way to the first centuries of the world, and not very first centuries, but after Christ. Uh,
Around.
Christianity was growing. It wasn't booming yet, but it was growing. And a lot of people, their main job was agriculture, right? So when it came to the winter solstice, a lot of people were already putting away their crops. They were saving for the winter and stuff like that. It was the end of really harvesting everything. So because of that, they would celebrate multiple days, and there's different days. I've read different articles. The article that I've read is the December 17th to December 24th. Others say even earlier, December 12th to December 24th, which is 12 days. Doesn't matter. The fact is that they will celebrate for multiple days, past more than a week. And through these celebrations, it was a pagan celebration, and essentially just celebrating their different gods, thanking them for the harvest, thanking them for the crops. And Rome, at least the religions that existed in Rome, there was multiple gods. One of these gods was the god Saturn. And there's a day called Saturnalia, which Saturnalia was exactly on December 25th, and it was one of the biggest celebrations. It was the god of sun, and Sun, and they would celebrate this god of sun because, again, a big part of harvest and having food is the sun, right? But comes Christmas and the sun takes a break. Comes not Christmas, but winter, sorry. The sun takes a break because, as now we know, the planet shifts its direction, or not direction, but the way it points to the sun, we get shorter days.
No.
So
Depending
harvesting,
on how close you are to the North Pole, you could get zero sun.
yeah,
Some
yes.
places in the winter. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
think Alaska, right? They just don't get any
Yeah.
sun.
I
yeah,
believe
no,
that the northern part, yeah,
no.
it can be
There's
darkness for a little time in the winter.
There's
Yeah.
a lot of history to this. It also comes to how we have our months. If you ever wonder, like September, October, November, December, these are all numbers. Septa, 7, Octa, 8, Nova, 9, Deca, 10. But in our calendar, they fall under different
Seven,
numbers.
8, 9, 10, 11,
Yeah,
12.
and the reason why is because the harvesting, and from what I've read, again, not completely accurate, but from what I read, is that out of the 12 months, 10 months were really the months for planning, growing, harvesting, preparing, putting away. And then there was these 2 months, which was January and February, where the winter was the hardest. It was where got hit the most, and that's where people didn't really plant or prepared or did anything. So really, we counted the months that mattered, which is up to the 10th month, which at that time was
December.
December. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyways, that is where we chose, or I say we, but the fathers of Christianity chose that we were going to celebrate Christmas is on the 25th. And mainly was because they were choosing days to celebrate celebrations contrary to pagan celebrations. One, because people already were taking breaks anyways, people were already celebrating anyways. So they kind of took advantage of that. But also, you're coming from a different religion that has all these celebrations. People also want to have those celebrations when they're Christians now, right? So to
Yeah.
satisfy that urge, I guess, they're also kind of copying, saying, okay, well, we're going to celebrate Jesus' birth this day, right? Which kind of
Yeah.
fit. A lot of like having a feast, there being wine, full of music came from the Roman traditions of celebrating the God of the sun. Um, but with that, the gift giving started actually from the beginning there, which is, I guess, number one pagan tradition that we do is that we give gifts to each other in Christmas.
I thought that was also because they gave gifts to Jesus.
So that is what the church adapted.
Adopted, and I
Yeah, they adapted it to that.
Adapted,
Yeah, they didn't adopt it. They adopted the gift giving, but then they
adapted the meaning,
adapted to saying
the
Jesus
association
got
of
presents.
Yes.
Jesus got presents, so that's why
Jesus
we give
got
each other
So,
presents.
myrrh,
which is
frankincense, gold.
yeah.
I couldn't
Yeah,
remember
Frank.
the one.
Yeah,
So which is
myrrh,
why
frankincense, and gold.
yeah, I mean, we think of the nativity, we have the shepherd boy, we have the shepherd boy, the shepherds, not shepherd boy.
You
I was
were-
thinking of the
Shepherd
drummer
boys.
boy.
you were the boy.
I was thinking of the drummer boy. I don't know why. The
The
shepherd,
drummer boy. That's a great story
you
too.
have the angel, you have Jesus, Joseph, Mary, and most majors are gonna have the wise men,
Right.
right? But
Even
the
though he
wise
was, we know
The
the
wise
wise men
man
weren't there
didn't get
according to
there
the
until he was a
Bible.
toddler.
years later, well, not years later, but yeah, years later. I
Yeah.
mean, he was a toddler.
He was a
So,
toddler.
because of this, we get a little confused with, dates, which is fine. But the gift giving for the Romans was a good luck charm. So if you gave gifts, it's because you were plentiful with wealth. So the gods blessed you that year to give gifts. And if you receive gifts, then
It
the
means you're not
gods
plentiful with
were
wealth. I'm just kidding.
the gods were blessing you with a better year to come.
Okay.
So those are kind of the things. And then there's other stuff that we've had. there's a lot of feasts around the world that are different in every culture. Like in Italy, there's the Feast of the Seven Fishes. That is Christian, but it was adopted from something else. In Mexico, we have Las Posadas, which we use to kind of retell the story of Mary and Joseph struggling to find a place to sleep, and they end up in the manger. But those also have some pagan traditions rooting back to our native roots there in
I've
Mexico.
actually never attended a posada where they tell any sort of biblical story. Because for me, a posada is just a Christmas party, and that's it.
See, that's crazy
Mm.
because to me,
Is
it
that where they have the little baby Jesus in the cake? What party is that?
no,
No,
that's
that's
the wise men.
yeah,
Oh, that's the Wise Men Day.
the Dia de
Okay.
los Tres Magos, yeah, the Wise Men Day, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
Is that
for
Epiphany or no, that's
Yes, it is
Epiphany.
Tiffany.
yeah. And
Okay.
see, and the word posada, again, it means a lot because for me, it was the days, the 12 days before Christmas. You did posadas, and the church here still does it, where you retell the story of them struggling to find a place, and then they find a place in the inn, which is the church for us. And there was always a Mary, there was always a Joseph, there was always a donkey, and there was always me and the guitar playing with other people playing the guitar, singing Christian songs. But then I grew up, went to a different world, and
A
people were like,
different world.
Posadas is a office party." I'm like, "What? No, no, it's not." So there's different definitions. It depends how you were raised, I guess. But yeah. Okay, we're gonna hit a big one, which we'll try not to take too long on it, but um, Santa. Santa. I think everyone knows that Santa comes from an extent story, pagan
Okay,
tradition.
we have to
Saint
give a warning
Nicholas.
to those parents that still do Santa. You need to cover your child's ears, or
Years.
Hide those
they need to
kids.
exit.
Hide the kids before you start telling them Santa's not real.
Yeah. Or you already said it, Wolf.
Oh,
You're
I
supposed to
didn't
give them
say
a second
Santa
or
was not
two.
real. I
Give
didn't
them a
say
second or
Santa was
two.
not real. I'm like, spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Please
Spoiler alert.
turn off the podcast, cover your
Yes.
ears,
So we
change the
have
channel.
we have three origins of Santa, and all three of these are merged into the Santa Claus that we know now. First, let's start with the father of Christmas, or Mr. Saint Nicholas. Um, Now, I was raised Catholic, so I kind of know this kind of stuff. They don't. That's okay. But each day of the year, you get a patron saint, and he is the patron saint of Christmas, specifically for the children, for the poor, and oddly enough, for the prostitutes. I'm not going to go into detail into that, but that is what he's the patron of.
Very
Um,
sketchy.
he lived during the fourth century of the church, and he was known to be a generous bishop that gave gifts to the poor. And like his actual robe and all that, it's just how priests dress,
Right.
right?
He has
Um,
the large pointy hat.
Pointy hat. He had it was red because during Christmas time you can wear red for Christmas, or purple for royalty. So red is really more for like the blood of Christ, and purple is for royalty. So he would wear red, but not all the time. But he was known as a very lovable person, a generous person who would give gifts to the poor and to the children, right? And that is one of the origins of Saint Nicholas or Santa Claus. But then there is another origin that comes from a bearded old man called Odin, and he was worshipped by German tribes, uh, portrayed as a big guy with a big beard.
Oh,
Had
I did. Do I know
Yeah,
Odin? That sounds familiar.
I don't
He
think I had ever heard of him.
type of a Viking dude. He had a bunch of big horses where they get the whole tradition of reindeers. He was you know how in the snow you typically have dogs. This guy had horses, so kind of got that tradition flipped into reindeers. He doesn't really
Fun.
add too much to the story other than more of the image of who Santa was. And then there is Coca-Cola, the company. They really wanted to sell Coke in the winter. And the problem is when Coke started in early or late 1800s, Coke and was a drink for the summer. You're hot, you
Mhm.
have a cold Coke, right? Well, how do you sell a cold drink when you're cold in the winter? Well, they started using propaganda, and this is why every year we have it. They started using Santa Claus into their marketing,
Oh,
Yes.
and
that's
Commercial.
why I always saw Santa with the Coke commercials all the
Yes.
time. That kind of
yeah.
makes
Yes.
sense.
So the
Hmm.
the jolly old Saint Nicholas that we recognize
It's
is
Coca-Cola.
actually Coca-Cola's Coca-Cola's vision of who Santa is,
Wow.
and that's has been a thing. And then the Macy's parade adopted him in the 1930s, 1940s to the parade in New York, and since then it's been history. Like that's the iconic one
He's
that we
like
know.
the last one in the whole parade because
Yes.
it's just when you know how they always say Christmas starts whenever Thanksgiving ends. So since it's the Thanksgiving parade, he's the last one, and then when Santa comes out, it's like, oh my gosh, Christmas has
It's
started.
Christmas now
Yes.
for our month-long celebration, pretty much here in
Yes.
America.
Yes.
So, there's different other traditions. Like for the Odin would have kids have their stockings. Like he was also a generous person, and he would give food to the poor. And a lot of the times, the kids would come with their stockings, and they would get big stockings because the bigger the stocking, the more food they would get. And Odin would give these carrots and potatoes and all this to kids, and that's why we get these big
Wait a
stockings.
second. I thought
Carrots and
Nick had
potatoes.
something to do with the stockings too.
Not
I
not
read a story, or not I read a story, I saw a story. It
I
was
wonder how kids, oh, sorry.
it was meant for children actually. The story that I saw
How
that like there was some sort of miracle where there was people were drying their socks by the fireplace and then he was trying to give gifts to these people and then all of a sudden those socks that they were drying were filled with gifts. I don't know.
hmm.
Something like that.
Imagine if you gave your kids carrots and potatoes in their
Yeah.
stockings. I
That's
wonder how.
kind of gross.
Irvin, did you see how wow, he just like flickered out.
He went to
Okay.
go get the dollars, remember?
Okay. And that was like 10 minutes ago.
No, no, that's how long they've been out there. Poor
I'm
dog.
I can still listen, and the door's not that far away. Yeah, well, imagine being a hungry kid. You would be happy to get carrots and potatoes.
Carrots and potatoes. Yeah, I actually like carrots and potatoes
I
when they're
have to go back and look at that story, but it's on the What's in the Bible by Phil Vishner, which are the same writers as
Mm.
the writers of VeggieTales. They did a like basically a Christmas version of it, and so they talk about Santa and how he came into play and how like kind of how we're talking about how does he come into play in the Christian world, and so they do talk about Saint Nick and all that, but I think that's all they talk about. They didn't talk
in
about
VeggieTales,
the
yeah.
Odin person,
Bench.
but they're puppets actually, and then they talk about how about what I was telling Wolf that these kids were drying their socks by the fireplace.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I
and
heard.
I don't remember if he had ran out of gifts or something happened to where he really wanted to give these kids gifts, but he didn't have any more, or maybe I don't know, maybe I'm forgetting the story, but somehow the kids were not expecting anything because they were just trying to dry their socks by the fireplace. and then they woke up the next morning and their socks had gifts in them. And so then
Yeah.
that's how we got the story of the stockings. I mean, that's what I learned.
I
And
never heard that story actually.
and so many things of Christmas is merged to what we know now. Because the story that I read is not about hanging stockings. It's just the fact of us having
Holding,
stockings.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but to Santa, he's a big one. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of traditions that can be connected to Santa, that has been connected to Santa. Like there's also Jamaic culture with I think his name is Kramus or Krampus, something like that, where he would take the bad kids and stuff like that,
Chris Kringle?
where they get the whole tradition of naughty and nice. So there's a lot of aspects to Santa that came from pagan traditions.
Yeah.
There is a saint attributed to him, but the saint that we know, it's probably just 10% of the Santa that we know now. So yeah, and I think
I
Santa is. We can talk a little bit more about this. He's probably the number one guy that most Christian parents have an issue with Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wasn't allowed to believe in Santa growing up. They told me Santa wasn't real from since as
Yeah.
long as
Yes.
I can remember. I knew Santa wasn't real. I
Yes.
knew Santa didn't bring me any presents.
Mm-hmm.
And my parent, okay, so they did allow me to watch some movies that had Santa in it, but
Mm-hmm.
they were very clear, like this has nothing to do with
Right.
God or Jesus. This is,
Just for
just
entertainment.
just entertainment. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what. So when I got presents on Christmas, they didn't tell me that Santa brought them. They're like, we bought them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or your grandma bought these.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was shared the Santa experience as a kid. Um, I don't know if I was the youngest from my siblings, but I know I figured it out. Well, I don't know if I was that young. Is 13 years old young? No, I'm
Um,
kidding.
I was like,
is it? Uh,
still putting some Santa.
you're still getting potty trained at 13?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would think it's probably almost exactly like Wolf. Like we we were told very young Santa isn't real. And then if we got any gifts, because sometimes my dad would kind of, and I love my dad, just I love both of my parents. I have a good relationship with them. But anyway, sometimes my dad got into this mood of like where he would be like, no, Christian is a pagan holiday, so we're not going to celebrate it. So then he just they didn't do gifts. So sometimes he would get in that mood, but it just, depended on the year, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah.
Whenever we did get gifts, they were also clear. These are from us. We worked very hard to get you these gifts.
Santa didn't bring
Which
them.
is fair, okay? It's fair for all those parents that are working very
Work so
hard.
hard
I
and then
think they
Santa gets the
deserve
credit.
to know that you worked hard and you got those gifts. But anyways, um, and then we also watched, movies that had Santa in them, but they would also be like, this is just for fun. None of this is real. There's no such thing as magic, and that
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to run through some of these pretty fast because we are coming close to our ending time. But I do want to end with one, but I'm going to go through the other ones pretty fast. One
Okay.
was Christmas caroling. This was through Anglo-Saxon traditions. People would go and sing to people's houses for good health for the next year. So that was a very traditional thing. We adapted it into traditional Christmas music, and I really have never
The caroling.
experienced a caroling. Like I've never had
You've
anyone
never gone
come
caroling?
to
I've
my
actually
door.
gone caroling. I've actually
I've
done that
gone
one.
caroling.
We've gone caroling
Yeah.
to like nursing homes, but like
Yeah.
not door to
Door
door.
to door?
I think
Do you?
I've gone door to door with the youth group where we would, sing like jingle bells or well, no, not jingle bells. I
We
don't
didn't
remember.
harass people though,
To
but
be
yeah, I've gone
honest,
door to
I
door.
don't remember what we sang. Yeah, we wouldn't harass people. It was like if they opened their door, fine. If they
Start
didn't,
singing it and they don't even answer.
I would be
Just
like
like
this, like
no. If they didn't open the door, we just move on to the next
speed
house.
the
Whatever.
tempo.
get our Christmas spirit now.
Yeah,
We
I
yes.
don't.
demand it.
I think I agree with or not agree. I think I'm with you on the fact that I don't remember if anyone has come to my door
Yeah,
singing a carol.
I don't,
yeah.
I think some people have come to my door when I was a kid with Christmas carols.
Must be nice, Wolf.
That's true.
You probably lived in a nice neighborhood.
Yes.
Kidding.
I've got
Um,
a lot of people came to our door.
another
You can imagine.
yes, another German tradition in honor of the god Odin was the Christmas tree. The Christmas tree was decorated with fruits, candles, and other things in honor of the god Odin that the Germans celebrated. We took it in, and when we started decorating our trees, we also started decorating with candles and fruits and stuff like that. But it was again with the tradition of Christianity. We added the star to the tree as the North Star from the story, but it was also a German celebration. Another celebration that came from the Romans, a tradition of celebrating the god of the sun, Saturnalia,
Saturday
Saturnal,
miracle. They say
Saturnalia.
it on the
There you
Big
go.
Bang Theory, remember?
Yes.
It's a Saturday miracle.
Yes. Trying to say it the Latin way, Saturnalia. Anyways, they would give each other a sacred plant, which was the holly plant, which is where we get the wreaths. The wreath.
Mhm.
For you those that can't picture it, that's what a holly plant is. And essentially, Christians were still being persecuted. So because they were celebrating their own Christmas thing, they didn't want to be the sore thumb and get caught and then get killed. So they started gifting themselves this wreath to kind of show like, hey, we're like you guys, pagans, right? But in their own way, they would also hang it and decorate it, and that would symbolize that they were Christian. So like if you went to a home and you were a Christian and you saw someone else that had it hanged, you would know, oh, that's the secret symbol that means that this person is a Christian too. So it's kind of neat. I thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
They're the kind of the ones that started hanging them around their homes to
Dang.
basically allow other Christians to recognize them as Christians.
So now everyone
Um,
is a Christian.
I didn't know that.
I'm just
Wow.
kidding.
So the last one that I want to talk about is the mistletoe. And
Oh.
Oh,
we're going to
the
talk a
best
little.
part, I'm just kidding. I don't know much about it.
It's actually very funny. Well, to me, it's funny, but it's another moment where kids should not be listening.
Warning.
So, warning.
Cheers. Take
Okay.
pause the video really quickly, make them have an exit, and then
Go have them read a Bible verse.
oh.
So,
Wow, okay.
we know the tradition under the mistletoe,
The
you kiss.
kiss under the mistletoe.
You kiss under the mistletoe, yes. This is another plant, first of all, that the Romans kind of saw as sacred, was the mistletoe. And
Wait, that's the name of the plant? Mistletoe?
I believe so.
Oh.
Mistletoe.
I mean, I'm with him, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
But anyways, the mistletoe was in honor to the god of Saturn, Saturnalia again. And it kept him happy when they performed the ritual that they had to perform under the mistletoe. Can you guess what that ritual was?
It was a sex ritual? Was it what kind of ritual?
You don't
I don't
know.
know.
You guessed. Okay, well, yeah, he guessed it right. Um,
Okay, I was about to
they
say, you were like,
I think he
did I get
wanted
it
me to
right?
say it.
it's exactly what it sounds like. They would have to perform a fertility ritual.
In front of him?
No, the
Oh,
god.
that's
There's a
No,
god
no,
that
the
God
god was not a
dimension.
person. He wasn't a
Yeah,
person
it wasn't a
coming down.
person. It was just
I don't know. I'm talking about Odin.
No, 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 no,
no,
no.
it's
This is
not a
back to the
it's
Romans,
Oh, Roman,
Saturnalia.
not
Uh,
German. Okay.
yeah, no, no. They
they believed that it
in
was a
honor of
in
him under
honor,
the
yeah.
mistletoe. They
Okay,
would
okay, okay.
try to get themselves
Oh, I
federalized once
fertilize.
they fertilize
Uh,
the seeds in the ground,
Okay,
right?
I got you.
Um,
I got
but when the Christians took it, that toned it down to just a kiss.
you. Just kidding.
oh, the Christians toned it down to just a
Okay.
kiss. Like we're not gonna go all the way. We're just gonna have a kiss. We're
We
gonna
should
tone it
have a
down.
kiss.
If
Okay.
they probably weren't married yet, whoever did it.
You
I
want to
think
say?
it's funny because it's so like I remember people that well at least were when I grew up, the people that would do the mistletoe kiss, it was a kind of like a classy thing. Like the parents
How
would
did
do it. There's no
how
pet.
I've never really experienced much of that. That actually happened when you
Yeah, I
were
mean,
growing
it
up?
wasn't like
Oh,
a
okay.
big deal, but like the way that I see it in movies where like young people would do it just to make out with random people. I never
Bring a
saw that.
mistletoe over that
Yeah.
you want to
Yeah,
make
no, I
out
never
with.
saw
You're
that
like,
either.
I never saw that. It was like, well, we ended up under the mistletoe
we
by
have to.
accident.
How did this happen?
Yes.
I guess we're
I
under the mistletoe.
I think part of that was because I grew up in a Christian home and like most of my extended family is Christian as well, and then like my parents only had Christian friends, so I never really saw any of that because I was in the Christian bubble, if you
I
Yeah.
will.
didn't see that. I'm like her. I didn't really see any of that mistletoe stuff, really.
Yeah. Well, I did. I mean, it wasn't a
I
big
knew about it.
deal.
Like I knew about it, mostly
Yeah.
from TV and movies, but I
Yeah.
didn't get to see a ton of it
Yeah.
in real
Well,
life.
and that's what I'm saying. When I saw it, it was like a classy thing that
Hmm.
parents did,
Dude,
older couples did, and it
but
wasn't
not
like
like young
tech. It wasn't like
young
full out
people.
makeout.
Or we like come to a
Uh,
Christmas party and there's mistletoe and like several people are kissing on the
yeah.
mistletoe. Like
Every inch of the corner of the house has a
Like
mistletoe.
a whoa.
Well, how did this ended up happening? Yeah,
Oh,
no, but I thought it was hilarious that it like it comes from a very like
Very vulgar.
it's a very vulgar tradition.
I had no idea. See, I didn't know about that.
Yeah,
About
I-
the fertility
yeah. I
ritual
mean,
under the mistletoe.
and there's I mean there's a lot of fertility rituals that were done in those days for different reasons or gods, but this is actually one that I've never heard of. It's the
Mhm.
first time that I hear about it. A lot of the other things I was like, oh yeah, I've heard this somewhere before. Um, and there's a lot of things and that I've researched that it was kind of like, okay, I've heard about this, not that interesting, but thought this one was one of the most funny ones to talk about. Honestly, from all of the ones that I read, the wreath was my most favorite one. Just because it was
Yeah.
kind of like the first secret knock or secret handshake of the Christians of
Or
where
that secret. Where did the fish? Remember that? Is that the symbol of the
The
Christians?
symbol
yeah,
The
of the
symbol of the
fish.
fish.
fish, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this was kind of similar to that, where only
Okay.
the Christians were the ones that would hang the wreaths. Everyone else just gave them to each other, right? So I thought it was a pretty cool thing. How about you guys? Which one was your favorite or your least favorite?
Um, let's see. I mean, now as a parent, I enjoy like looking at Santa things because I think of like the person who Saint Nick was and all the good things that he did. And so as a parent, like or like I mean, I guess just as an adult Christian, I like.
And it's not him.
I was. I was.
She's
I
talking
like the
about what
commercialism.
she
I don't know.
likes. She
Yeah.
likes commercialism.
I don't know if it's
Yeah.
the businesswoman in me or what. Like when I literally said at breakfast the other day, and I didn't even think about how I said it or who I said it to, but when they brought Cokes, and Urban has Coke for breakfast. But anyways, they brought a Coke
You're
bottle.
having Coke for breakfast?
Yes, they brought a Coke bottle or a can. Sorry.
Let's clarify that. I have Coke with my breakfast,
You're
Yeah,
not
having Coke
as my
for
breakfast.
breakfast? Well, that would be even worse. You're having Coke for breakfast.
you know what I'm saying. Like he doesn't have coffee
No,
or orange juice or
No
no,
anything
those
orange
are too
like
juice or
that.
coffee.
those are too addicting. I'm not gonna get into that.
Orange juice is
Orange
Coffee.
juice is addicting.
oh, and Coke is not okay. So anyways, they brought him a Coke Zero and it had a Santa on it. And I literally said at the breakfast table, I was like, it makes me so happy to see Santa on the Coke can. My mom and my sister were like, what?
What?
And now I think my sister was genuinely curious to know why I said that. But my mom was like, Santa, because she still holds a little bit of the traditional Christian views where you don't celebrate Santa or you
Yeah.
don't, do Santa for Christmas. So I think that's where she was coming from. But I told Nani, or I told everybody, I was like, well, it just means, Santa's here. I mean, Christmas is here because you see Santa on the can of Coke.
Yeah.
So,
It's a
And with Santa, we and for those who are wondering, like we like we kind of have like no, like we have a gray area stance with Santa.
yeah,
Because we didn't tell our oldest daughter about Santa.
we didn't. She just
She
knows
she
who
knows
he
about
is.
him. She knows
Just
that he's
he's not
fake.
real, right?
We did have to talk with like some kids believe that he's real, so you need to
Yeah,
respect that.
yes.
You can't be just yelling, "Do you know
He's
that
not
he's
real.
fake?"
I think and
Ruining
it
people's
goes
dreams,
it goes back
ruining children's
to
dreams.
what I was talking about earlier, that they have such a good relationship with Jesus that I think like that God himself like somehow revealed that to her that it wasn't real, or I don't know, because we never said anything about it
Yeah.
and she just kind of knew.
And we also didn't like start buying presents and saying, "This is from Santa,"
No,
right?
I like it's like how I said earlier, me myself, I'm like, I worked hard for this gift and I want you to know that I worked
Yeah.
hard for it and I got it for you,
I
okay?
mean,
Yeah,
like even
I
as
don't
growing
care.
up, even growing up as a kid, the news, like radio, media, they talk about Santa on Christmas Eve. Like they say
Mhm.
he's just left, they're telling you where he is. Like,
Yeah,
have you guys heard
They're
that? It's
trying
on
to
like the
yeah.
news and it's on the media. Like
Yeah.
even as a kid, I was like, okay, he's not real, but it's on the
On
news.
TikTok,
right.
there
So I'm
is
like,
there's there's
I
several
thought that as a
guys
kid.
that
I was
play Santa on TikTok,
Yeah.
and they're live, and you can type out your kid's name or send a gift to Santa with your kid's name, and he'll say, well, thank you for your gift, and I'll make sure to buy Timmy his bike this year or whatever, right? But there's a lot of Santa everywhere, so we know that she wasn't not ever going to see
Right.
Santa.
And they're trying to
yeah.
make the experience real for those
Oh.
who do believe it, I guess. And I mean, I guess
Would
I'm
you guys have they ever
not.
wanted to go see Santa or take a picture with Santa?
Well, they do
Has that ever
every
happened?
year. Every year
Okay.
when Santa does school pictures, I pay for
Yeah.
them
Yeah.
because I mean
Which makes their experience a little bit weirder because now they know
it's
it's just
cute.
a random old guy in a suit.
You're like, it's not a magical,
Like,
immortal
wait, we don't
man
believe
who
in
gives
Santa.
presents. It's
So
just
who is this
a
guy?
guy who got paid to dress up. It's not an
Yeah.
immortal magical man.
Yeah.
But kind of how Urban said, like she's known not to ruin that experience for others, and
Yeah.
she also doesn't ruin it for the adults, I guess. Like whenever we go to restaurants or whatever and it's like past Christmas, they're like, "Oh, what did Santa bring you?" She'll be like, "Oh, well, he gave me this and this and that," but
She's smart.
she knows the gifts are from us, but she'll say,
She'll
"Santa
go
got me
along with
this." Yeah, she
Yeah.
goes along
so
with it.
Yeah. So, Wolf, just to end, what was your favorite pagan tradition that now is a Christian tradition? Or which one do you think was the most interesting one, I guess?
Uh, I mean, I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion. I haven't really thought about this in a long time, to be honest. Since I've become an adult, I haven't really, this is kind of making me reflect on my childhood. As an
Yeah.
adult, I've kind of really moved out of a lot of holidays and tradition just because I haven't really experienced it, a
Yeah.
lot as an adult. I spent a lot of Christmases by myself since I've been an adult, and so I don't really quite think about it as much, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But you know, one of the biggest surprises was like the mistletoe one. That was a surprise for me.
Mhm.
I didn't expect to hear that.
Yeah.
I thought it was something a little bit more innocent. I didn't think the fertility ritual, I've always grown up, I had a lot of exposure to Santa Claus and everything, even though I was told, he wasn't real. So
Yeah.
that's one that, but what tradition believe today or which one I follow today, I'm not, I don't, I really can't quite answer that. I'm still open to gift giving. I think gift giving, we talked about where the gift giving came from and how we've kind of, I think you used the word adapted it,
Hmm.
Right.
adapted the gift giving tradition. I don't have a problem with giving gifts. I mean, honestly, for this Christmas, I don't know if I'm giving anyone any gifts. But
You can make it
if I
club.
were in the right friend group, I'm around people for Christmas, I like giving gifts. I really do. I don't have a problem.
I'll send you my
That's me.
Amazon list.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
like, I'll send you my list too. I can do
I
that
can
too.
buy you the latest Xbox game and you can buy me the same game and we'll just say it's our gift exchange.
You're gonna
So
be
it looks
like,
like you're not buying it for yourself. I'm down to do a gift exchange. Um, a lot of people in my family don't celebrate Christmas at all anymore, just because of
wow,
the pagan
paganism. Yeah.
association. They don't think
Yeah,
they should celebrate it at all,
yeah,
Yeah.
including gift giving. And then I haven't really, formulated. I'm not around people who are celebrating Christmas anyway, so
yeah,
that's
Hmm.
why I haven't thought about it as much. But I mean, I enjoy gift giving. I love, the giving part. I mean, I do like
yeah.
receiving too, but
Yeah. Yeah, that's
it's
one of the things that I like about the traditional aspect of my background is I like and I understand why people don't like celebrating Christmas, but I also like to see different seasons of Christianity throughout the year, right?
Hmm.
And most Christians don't experience that. Like they don't experience other than Christmas and then everything else, right? But in the liturgical year, you have your Christmas season, you have your Easter season, going into Easter, going into Lent. You have ordinary time. You have different stuff where you have to read the entire gospel in different parts and pieces through 3 years. And it
Hmm.
forces you to read one entire gospel, connecting to the letters and connecting to the Old Testament. And I personally still enjoy that. I think that's something that more churches sadly are moving away from it. We've gone to services or even churches that we've visited where they make a whole sermon on half of a verse or a verse, and it's like the word of God is not used so much in their
Hmm. They're
teachings.
more like motivational speeches.
Motivational speeches, yeah. Or I feel that God is telling me to tell you this. Um, and I feel when there is some structure, it does help. And again, it doesn't have to be the liturgical year. I know a lot of pastors that will take and the church that we're going here in Mission is doing this. They get a gospel, they'll choose the shortest one if they want, Mark, and they say we're gonna go through Mark this entire year. And that forces the congregation to listen to the entire gospel. Some people can be Christians their entire life and have maybe not ever heard the entire gospel because they go once a month or
That's
whenever
hard to
in
believe, to be
church.
honest. That's hard
It's
to believe, but
it's
it's
hard to
quite but
believe.
it's probably quite true.
Yeah. I mean, you ask them about the Christmas story, they know it. They ask them about
Yeah,
Easter story or
don't
Resurrection
know the
Day story,
Easter.
They know it. Ask
Everything
them
in
about other
between.
stuff. They might not know it so much.
Yeah.
How about the greatest sermon on the Mount? I don't know.
Tell me
They
about
might know
Nicodemus and
some.
Jesus. They're like, I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah, yeah. So I do enjoy that some churches are doing that. The church that we were in Oklahoma did that a lot too. They would
Yeah.
grab
Oh, he
Yeah.
spent
whole
like
books.
how
No.
many years on John?
Yeah,
So
I
Years.
came in when he was still in John, and he was still in John for
Wow.
3 years,
You can
and
preach
he
on
had
John for a long time. It's
yeah,
my favorite of the Gospels. It's
yeah.
a lot of people's favorites.
yeah,
Personally,
Yeah,
not my favorite
it's my
gospel.
favorite.
I'm
it's
more
my
into
favorite.
Luke. Um,
Luke is short though, or I
Luke is
think.
not
Okay,
short.
24 chapters, but it's still kind of short.
Luke has the good parts of the gospel.
Okay.
We're not gonna
Um,
debate which gospel is
We're
better
not going
than
to
the
get into maybe we should have a
other.
podcast. What gospel is the best one?
I wanted to interject really quick because I feel like I didn't do my dad any justice. So, so my dad is a pastor now, and now that he's a pastor, like his views on Christmas have completely changed. Before he was very
Not completely, but
well, not completely, but he's changed a lot, I should say. Because
he's not
before
dressing up like Santa Claus.
he's not just but
Or the
before
Grinch, or the Grinch, right?
he was leaning more on the side of like this is a pagan holiday, I shouldn't celebrate it type thing. To the point of like how Wolf said like he wasn't gifting anything and stuff like that. And well, now that he's a pastor, he sees how, the church has adapted it and how they have used it to really present the gospel in a beautiful way. So now, like, he is all in. He is doing Advent at the church. Sometimes he'll have
Oh,
Advent
they're
Advent
doing the candle. They're,
sermons.
they're doing the lighting of the
Yeah,
candles.
they do the
Yeah.
lighting of the
Okay.
candles, and he'll even have like a sermon to go with it. For sure, there's like a little devotional.
Mhm.
I didn't mention that we did Advent growing up, when my teenage years
Okay.
especially.
See, and
So that is something
I didn't do that
we adopted
until
it. We adopted it in my teenage years.
I didn't do that until we got married, I think, and in the our Oklahoma church, that's where we first started to do it. And anyways, so now, my dad uses the tools that the Christian church have set up for him to present the gospel during Christmas time. And I love that because I love Christmas. And there's still, no Santa, I guess you could say, but I think sometimes in the setting of the church that's appropriate because you don't want to take the focus away from Jesus and Jesus' birth, but like outside of the church, I mean, yeah, he still, isn't he doesn't have any like Santa um like figures or characters around the house. Like my mom decorates all out, like she goes all
Yeah.
out with decorations,
A lot of mistletoes.
but
Do you have mistletoes?
I don't know. But
I
for
don't
sure,
definitely want to have mistletoes at my house after what I've learned tonight.
my
No,
mom,
not gonna have them anymore.
she has this
I threw them. I'm gonna throw
theme.
them out right after this podcast.
I don't even know where to get them.
We're done. We have 4 kids. We're done. We're not doing no
No more fertility.
paternity.
Fertility rituals. Anyways, they have nativity scenes and they have snowmen and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like they and my mom has mentioned not she's never mentioned it, but like I know that like I've mentioned it to her. Like it probably bothers her that we do Santa, but I mean we really don't.
Yeah.
And they're not like against it or anything like that. They're not gonna judge people
Hmm.
if they do Santa is what I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
They're
So
more neutral or indifferent to it than
they're
having a
right,
strong anti-Santa approach or spirit.
right. And
Yeah.
so I'm grateful for the way they brought me up, even though like it's a lot different than how I'm raising my girls, but I'm very blessed to have had that foundation, like that Christian
Yeah.
based life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that change and We by no means saying that we have the perfect or the completely correct way to raise kids. Um, because we made mistakes and we're gonna make mistakes, even if we try not to make mistakes, we are gonna make mistakes. And just like Wolf said, he's in a whole different season of his life.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
traditions like to you, Wolf, mean almost nothing, right? But for us, like if I
Well, I
was
wouldn't say they mean
alone,
nothing, but if you're by yourself more, you don't have, since I don't have
yeah,
a family right now,
yeah, yeah,
if I
yeah,
had a family and kids and a wife, like I probably would want to have some sorts of
yeah,
yearly traditions,
yeah. But when
like
like
that. And
I lived alone for about a year and a half. I didn't want to buy a wreath. I didn't want
yeah,
to put a tree up. I didn't want to do anything like that. That
yeah,
wasn't something I wanted to do. But now we have kids and they want to put the tree up. They want to decorate.
yeah,
Like this is the first year that we inflated some stuff and put it outside, and it's so annoying because they keep falling down.
Her mom
They,
was like, "What are those supposed
yeah,
to be?"
yeah, yeah,
yeah. And
they
I'm,
haven't stood up, but we do it because the kids want to do it, right? And I
yeah.
never had that as a kid. At least the
Hmm.
Yeah.
inflatables, the Christmas tree we did.
My mom, again, whenever my dad was in the
Oh,
mood
did
for celebrating,
you
she
decorate?
go all out with the decoration, but it was mostly on the inside. So because we lived in a two-story house, so the outside was like bare. But now they have those
That's funny.
cool like projector things. So they have a couple of those,
A
and
lot of
they
inflatables.
have a lot of inflatables, and
Yeah.
the girls love it.
I That's cool. I actually loved Christmas was one of my favorite times of the year growing up when I was a kid. I love decorating. I love, getting the tree out. I love putting up lights. It's funny because today, as an adult, I can't imagine enjoying like putting up a tree and lights, and maybe that will change as I get older again. But I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm definitely
And
not anti-Christmas. It's just,
yeah.
life has just changed things
Yeah.
over
Mhm.
time.
And that's okay. Personally, for me, Christmas in the past 2 years has not been a holiday that I like celebrating.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
it is not the holiday itself, but my dad passed away 2 years ago on the 23rd. So coming up to his anniversary of his death. It's hard
Uh-huh.
always, and it puts me in a glazy mood sometimes or hazy mood on the day of his, and it's like right before Christmas. So then Christmas hits, and it's like, okay, I go into my whole, we have to do this, and we have to be happy and all that, and it's just kind of the past 2 years
Yeah.
have been more kind of like, well, last year because the year that he died. I didn't even try, to be in any mood. I was in the mood that I was in that time, and it
Yeah.
was. But last year, I tried my best. Okay, I'm not gonna ruin it for anyone, especially that we weren't celebrating here. We were celebrating in my in-laws. Um, but I remember, like, I really wanted to be just laying down. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I didn't want to interact, but it is what it is, right? And everyone has different seasons, different reasons. I know our church that we go to and the church that we've went to also and other churches that we visited, they always have small groups. And if you are in a church and you are going through grief and all that, we encourage you to reach out to your own church, your own community. And if your church doesn't have it, then find somewhere. Because yeah, mental health is very important.
It
And
is.
it's not just grieving. It could also be, you live by yourself and live far away from family, had a bad upbringing or whatever it was, and you need some help. So I don't
Yeah,
know
it can be
why.
the
I
most
mean,
depressing time of the year for a lot of people, the most depressing.
yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah,
is.
yeah,
It's been depressing for me at many times.
yeah,
I've lost people as well, and
yeah,
around the holidays, and
Yeah,
it can be very depressing.
right.
yeah,
You remember their absence the most.
Yeah, you do.
yeah.
The,
You do remember.
especially if you have the entire family together, you see the missing person and
Hmm.
it becomes sad that
Yeah,
they're not there
Yeah.
to see
yeah,
the rest of the family or
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna conclude that we are way past the hour now. This is gonna be probably our
I
longest
thought
episode.
so.
I
We'll have
still
to
Um,
start
have
having
more things to
an
say, but
extended episode or after hours. I don't know what we'll call it, but
yeah, no.
yeah.
I don't know.
It's going to be a bonus episode. You guys have an extra long episode for Christmas. This is the last Christmas episode. We've done our closing thoughts already, sort of. But we're going to end it here. I do appreciate everyone who is watching. Today was our first episode, so this is our third one. Hopefully, we have more viewers and more listeners. If not, that's okay. We will talk to the wall and to
Yeah.
ourselves.
We like talking to
And
ourselves. That's fine. Yeah.
and that'll be fine. So it is what it is. But if you do have comments, leave in the comment section, whatever it is. We're checking everything as soon as possible. We saw some comments on Facebook, some on YouTube. Thank you so much for those. I don't know if you can comment on Spotify or not. I don't think you
You
can.
can
Yes,
actually.
you
You
Oh,
can
can.
you can?
comment on
Yes,
Okay.
you
podcasts,
can.
yes.
Well, if you can, then comment there
I
too.
have no idea how to see them, but yes,
Yes.
you can.
We will leave, if you're watching us on YouTube, we will leave all our links in the description. At some point, we'll put them for sure. And then if you're listening, you can follow us there. And for sure, if we can tag anything, we will tag it there as well. So thank you for listening and watching, and we will see you guys next time on the next episode. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.